The bar's open downstairs, all your teas, coffees, alcoholic beverages, ice creams and snacks. Now, we're your crew for this afternoon. We're not official London guides. We're watermen and lightermen of the River Thames. I'll be giving you a live guide and commentary on the way upriver. If I do make a few mistakes, please bear with me. And it does come in one language, bad English. So can everyone hear me okay? Right, directly behind us, the world famous Tower Bridge. Opened in June 1809. The two centre spans at the bottom and the middle are known as bascules. The word bascule meaning seesaw. Each one of the bascules weigh over 1,000 tonnes each. Now, they can be raised in just over 90 seconds, and they have been raised well over 700,000 times since the opening ceremony. The only time they completely failed to raise was on that opening ceremony when the ship actually collided and hit the bridge. To our left-hand shore we have the C-35. She is HMS Belfast. Launched in 1938 by Mrs. Neville Chamberlain. Built by Harland and Wolff, the same shipbuilders that built the ill-fated Titanic. Now the Belfast weighs 11,552 tonnes. The biggest light cruiser ever built for the Royal Navy. On the 10th of December 1944, she helped do the chasing, shelling and sinking of the German pocket battleship, the Scharnhorst. She was the ship that fired the first big D-Day landing, Normandy landings. The one with the crisscross, this is called the cheese grater. They haven't named the one at the back yet. The one at the front here is called the walkie-talkie. It got the name of the walkie-scorchy, because when they first opened it, we had a heat wave and it actually set a car on fire on the ground and scorched the front of a shop. So now if you look, it looks like blacked out sunglasses. But at the very, very top there, you can see people that look like ants. That is actually the roof garden, restaurant and bar, meaning foul-mouthed person. And if no one don't believe me, please go home and look it up in the Oxford Dictionary. And beyond that, just disappear. You can see that gold, you'll get a direct view of it beyond the glass building. There's a big tall column with a gold figure. We will get a direct view. That is Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London. The monument stands 202 feet high. If you lay it in an easterly direction, the way that we've just travelled from, it pinpoints where the fire started in a baker's shop in Pudding Lane. On the 2nd of September 1666, the Great Fire of London raged for 3 days and 4 nights, destroying nearly 2/3 of London. Only 6 people lost their lives in the Great Fire, and the only good that come from the Great Fire of London was it wiped out the Black Plague. That gold figure on top represents a candle. It's always been said a candle started the Great Fire of London in a baker's shop. Now as we go past the 2 buildings on our right over here, there's a gap opening. Once we get in line with it, you will get a direct view in the distance of 100 yards of Sir Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London. Then the next ahead of us is the world famous London Bridge. It is approximately the 7th bridge to stand on the site within 50 metres downriver. It's now been proven that we have had crossings here for over 2,500 years. Well, the structure ahead of us was opened in 1973 by Queen Elizabeth II. The predecessor to this was sinking into the mud of the River Thames. So we sold it to the McCullum Corporation of America for £1.25 million. It was taken down stone by stone, shipped over to America and reassembled over Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert, where she still stands today looking glorious and spectacular. The London Bridge before this one was opened in 1881 and started to be taken down in 1968. Now as we do get to the other side of London Bridge, over to our left-hand shore, is our 2nd oldest cathedral in London. This is going to be Southwark Cathedral. This is where John Harvard was baptised. John Harvard later emigrated over to America. He founded the Harvard School, now known as the Harvard University. John Harvard being the son of a local moocher. Also, William Shakespeare's infamous brother, Edmund Shakespeare, is buried in the grounds of Southwark Cathedral over to your left. And also next door, looks like there's a back end of a little ship over here. This is the exact replica of Sir Francis Drake's The Golden Hind. This one was built in Appledore in 19... And also you've got a big sign over there saying Pickford's War. The word war is an acronym. It stands for Warehouse at Riverfront. That's the actual meaning of the word war. We're just going beneath Cannon Street Railway Bridge. We call it the most ugliest bridge in London. And as you do get to the other side of Cannon Street, if you look immediately to your left-hand shore, in the corner there's a famous iconic public house called the Anchor of Bankside. The original parts of the Anchor of Bankside was actually used by William Shakespeare as changing rooms, because the original Globe Theatre never had any. It only stood 50 metres away in Park Street, destroyed by fire in 1613. Now if you look at the black glass building over here with the FT on it, when they started building this, they found the original foundations of the original Globe. Parts of it has been built on stilts to preserve the original foundations. But in the past, due to EU regulations and health and safety, public cannot go and visit it. Hopefully now we're out of the EU, they'll open it up to the public in a couple of years' time. This is Southwark Road Bridge. Opened in 1927, it is the least used and narrowest of road bridges on the Thames in London. Is in the world. It is only 1 square mile. As we go past here, if you look inside the main road, you see a big silver dragon inside of the main road. They're known as gargoyles. They are on all 4 main roads that goes into the City of London. Put there to ward off evil spirits from entering into the city. And even when Her Majesty passes these points, she bows her head and says, "I come in peace." The large ship is the Wellington Line. Wellington was given to us by the New Zealand Navy. She is permanently moored here, and she is here for master mariners and retired sea captains. To become a master mariner, you've got to be a captain at sea for 25 years or a ship owner. But you can also hire the Wellington out and parts of her for private weddings and parties as well. Next ahead of us to the right is an ornate building with a green dome in the middle, flying the yellow flag. This is Somerset House. This is what the Duke of Somerset had built as his London residence many hundreds of years ago. Until 1992, it did used to house all our births, deaths and marriages in England and Wales. It underwent a major renovation. It's now part of St King's College, open to the public since 2001. It's a beautiful building inside and out. The Middle Atrium was built many years ago. Have anyone seen the film London's Fallen? When they land in the big building with all the Chinooks and the helicopters, that was all filmed inside of Somerset House. As you do go past Somerset House, if you look to the other side of the Victoria Embankment, you'll notice an archway. That's how wide the River Thames used to be. The Duke of Somerset had his own boat that took him into a Middle Atrium pool in the middle of his own palace. That's what you call ostentatious, ladies and gents. Your next bridge, Waterloo Road and Footbridge. This is affectionately known as the Ladies' Bridge, built during the Second World War with over 90% female labour. The facings of the bridges are very expensive Portland stone, got self-cleansing qualities. When we get heavy rain in London, it washes itself. Look at the underside of the bridge, where the rain cannot penetrate, it becomes polluted with grime and dirt over the years. And it is the only bridge in London that was actually built on time and on budget. Commissioned in 1939, opened in 1945, built with over 90% female labour. Over to your left, we have the Royal Festival Hall. This is the only remaining building of the Festival of Great Britain of 1951. It is now a Grade 2 listed building. It is still restaurants and there's concert halls within inside as well. Over to our right, just here, just coming up, is our oldest monument on the banks of the River Thames. The 18-metre granite stone obelisk known as Cleopatra's Needle. It is over 3,500 years old. Given to us by the grateful Egyptians, the Battle of the Nile and defeat of Napoleon. The twin obelisk to this one stands in actual words were, leave them as they are. London is unique. Your next bridges is a group of 3 bridges. Your first little footbridge, this is the Princess Diana Memorial Footbridge. The middle bridge is Charing Cross Railway Bridge. The upper side footbridge is the Princess Alexandria Memorial Footbridge. Now, Princess Alexandria was Queen Victoria's favourite granddaughter. She married the Tsar of Russia and was sadly executed with the Russian Tsars. The Tsar's bones was only found just over 20 years ago and finally laid to rest. So that's the Princess Diana Memorial Footbridge, Charing Cross Railway Bridge and the Princess Alexandria Memorial Footbridge. And as we do get to the other side of these bridges, over to our right hand, short beyond the trees is a very ornate building that looks like a Disney princess castle. The official name of the building is Whitehall Mansions. This was the headquarters of the Liberal Democrats when they was in County in the 1930s. The building is now known as Horseguards Hotel. It's a 5-star luxury hotel. And ahead of us and dominate your left hand, the Millennium celebrations. It was only supposed to be here for 2 years. It's now a permanent fixture owned by the Berlin Entertainment Group. 30 minutes to go round in a complete revolution. On a clear day at the top you can see over 35 miles. It's just above the first lot of windows. There is an inscription in Latin. You roughly translate it to English. It's the Lord's Prayer that continuously runs around the outside of the building. It was actually put there to ward off evil spirits from entering into Parliament. That one I'll leave to your own devices, ladies and gents. The bridge ahead of us is Westminster Road Bridge. It is the only bridge on the River Thames in London with 7 working arches. What we mean by 7 working arches? When tides are right, boats and ships can use all 7 archways. Well, ladies and gents, we're shortly going to make our way into Westminster Pier for Big Ben, House of Parliament and Westminster Abbey. When we leave here, we go across the river to the London Eye, then back down to the Tower of London and Greenwich. But if you are leaving us here, please make sure you take all your personal belongings with you. It does include your husbands, wives and children. Be very careful, of course, as leaving the boat to the pier. Thank you for travelling with us on the Millennium of Peace. As I did tell you, we're not official London guides, we are watermen and lightermen of the River Thames. But we do the live guides because we do think they're a bit better than the automated ones. And we try and make them a little bit interesting, educational and a little bit of entertainment. So if you have enjoyed my guided commentary this afternoon, my name is Lee. If you haven't, please blame the captain. But if you would like to show your appreciation, you can do so in the traditional manner of the captain's champagne bucket. It's completely voluntary on your behalf, as it was on our behalf, but all proceeds will be going into research, ladies and gents. Because when me and the captain and crew finish tonight, we've got 2 more pubs to research in Greenwich. So enjoy the rest of your day in London, and thank you from the captain and crew of the Millennium of Peace. And be very careful, of course, as leaving the boat to the pier. Thank you.
Over in St Catherine's. To your right hand side, we got here Butler's Wharf. To your right, the largest tea warehouse in Europe. All the tea imported into Europe would have been stored at Butler's Wharf. The fast tea clipper, the Cutty Sark down at Greenwich, would have brought tea up here for storage. The fastest boat of her day, the first boat to bring the produce up here, got the best money for its cargo. All stored at Butler's Wharf to your right. The small dockway to our right hand side. This is Dockhead of Bermondsey. Has anyone seen the film drops the jewels into the sticky mud during the film? That's where Bill Sykes fell to his death. Oliver Twist was written by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens used to walk all along here. Parts of this place down here have not changed since the days of Dickens. He'd have walked past here and he'd have gone up to the Clink prison. That's where his father was being held. The Clink prison was up by Pickford Walls as we come through between London Bridge and by the Borough Market. But that was a debtor's prison, and that's where Charles Dickens' father was being held prisoner. Many of the unsavoury characters that he would have met on his journey up to see his father. To our right hand side here, we've got Chambers Wharf. I did up to 10 years. Then the old sewage system, designed by Joseph Bazalgette, it can't of London, just on the right-hand side, all of London's new buildings there, the Gherkin, the cheese grater, the walkie-talkie, all over there behind us. As I said, we're going to go alongside Cherry Garden. To our left-hand side though, you see Oliver's Wharf here to our left. Back in the late 1970s, 1980s, these were old wharves and warehouses on the river. Bells used to ring out. When the bells rang out, that's when the people round, all around here, knew that the fresh fruit was being brought in. Oranges and lemons rang the bells of St Clement's. I hear you five farmings rang the bells of St Martin's. The funny looking building here to your left-hand side, this is called Free Trade Mall. Very ingenious way it's been designed. Look how closely. You'll notice that all the buildings all face the river. Very ingenious way. You get a much better, higher price for your building, or for, if you've got a view of the River Thames. It's not allowed to tell you where, but I can tell you, like, there's gold statues apparently. Just back there. You've got the Lime Kiln Dock directly to your left-hand side. That's where they built all. But when the Great Fire of London hit back in 1666, the government at the time said no building would have been made out of thatch or wood. So Lime Kiln Dock is where they produced all the bricks and the mortar that would rebuild central London as we know it today. And as we come round the bend in the river, Cuckold's Point, to our left-hand side, well, this is the new City of London here to your left. You've got Canary Wharf development. Most people, even me up to a few years ago, you'll recognise the building, the tall building with the flashing lights on the top. Everyone used to call that Canary Wharf, but that's number 1 Canada Tower. Canary Wharf, folks, is the area where it's set on. It was after the last remaining warehouse that used to trade in the Canary Islands. This was all done in the 1970s, the late 70s, the early 80s for LDDC, the London Development Corporation, all hustling and bustling around the Canary Wharf development. This is situated on the Isle of Dogs. There's a small cutway in the wall directly to your left. This was known as the West India Cut or the West India Dock. The Isle of Dogs, there's a couple of reasons why they say to us it's called the Isle of Dogs. Now that cutway split the island in half. You could actually sail through that to save the sailors taking all the time to go around the peninsula. If anyone's seen the very interesting and educational area here to our right hand side, just ahead of the boat you'll see some yellow buoys. During the summer months, normally during the summer months, at this time of year, the cruise ships that come into run between these yellow buoys, and then a small tender would take the passengers together in the hope of making your journey a little bit more interesting and hopefully a little bit more enjoyable. If I succeeded in doing so in any way, we have a very old tradition, is that we leave a silver champagne ice bucket at the exit gate. Then feel free to drop a coin, a couple of bob, into that bucket if you wish. It's purely voluntary, folks, just like these commentaries have done. As I said, the company have got recorded audio guides, and you might hear some of them on if you get on one of the later returning boats back. But on this boat, we don't like to. So thanks very much for your kind attention. Hope I've made your journey the history of the Thames. Thanks for listening, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Wait for a turn.